In this episode of Lori's Maine Inspiration, we're in Gardiner to visit the Costell and Costell Gallery. This is a gallery when you walk in, on one side, we have very realistic landscapes, and on the other side, there's a whole bunch of abstract stuff going on, very bold. The gallery is owned by the Costell sisters. That's Elle on the left and Paloma on the right. Elle does the abstract and abstract realism. Paloma does the realistic landscapes. Both do great work, but in this episode, we're going to focus mainly on Elle. And Elle is going to tell us about her art, about how she's envisioning the life cycle of sunflowers here, and then we'll see a little bit of her new exhibit later. But first, we'll go into the sunflowers, and these paintings are obviously very bold from a distance. But when you get closer, you discover that they're more than just paintings. They have such texture, they're almost like sculptures. And you can really get lost in the patterns, the varying texture that goes with the colors. I spent a lot of time with my iPhone going over the surfaces. Really interesting stuff. On our first visit, the Rising exhibit was getting ready to close, and Elle was getting ready for her American Dream show. So we came back to see what that was about. And what it was about was this guy. An old doll that is, giving you the finger. And she transformed it into kind of a social political statement in huge, colorful form. As before, these pieces have a lot of texture and a lot of interesting detail to look at. They also have a definite social statement, and I'm going to let Elle tell you about that, so there's a lot to stick around for. So let's cue the loon and get started. For years, my family's been coming to Maine, and my wife loves the place, and it's inspired a lot of her alcohol inks art. And now that she's retired and doing her art full-time, we're looking for more inspirations, and so we're creating this series to share that search and just to share the things we love about Maine while we go look for more things to love.
Hey everyone, we're here on Quill Hill by Rangeley Lake with our own quill, and getting some footage for later, but right now we're going to show you our Elle Costell episode. We got 2 exhibits from her, and we love Elle.
We do.
Hope you like the episode.
Paloma and Elle Costell have been painting their entire life. They come from a family of artists, and they grew up in New Jersey but found their way to Maine, and they have a gallery in Gardiner where they have both sisters' work on display. Today we're going to focus mainly on Elle, the one on the left here, and her abstract work. When we first walked in the gallery, Elle's abstract work just jumped out at us, and so we asked her, what does this show, Rising Tribute to the Sunflower, mean? So here she is in her own words.
This is a sunflower seed, which a lot of people don't see the top part of it because it sits in the head. And each seed is an individual flower, which I found really beautiful when it drops out because the flower is intact for about 2 hours and then it kind of dissolves into the ground because of the heat. And then you're left with the seed. And then we move on to the growth section of the sunflower when it's in bloom and they're all together and reaching for the sky, for the sun, in a field, and then we move on to the seeding part where the plant finally reaches fruition and all the seeds are beginning to show at the top and the petals have fallen off. So this, I think, is the most exciting part of the growth for me because it's doing what it's tried and to accomplish all season, to create these seeds for the next generation. And then one of the reasons I love sunflowers is because I love the gnarly shapes they take and how the wind forms them into almost sails that spread over the field, fall into the field, hang on each other, and they somehow survive and are able to conquer the elements of nature and bloom. And then we move on to this, which is another sunflower. This, I did 3 of this particular stage, because this is the stage I love the most. I think you see more of the shape of the plant in these than you do when it has the petals on them, because you don't get to see the curves. And inside here is where the water will go. This is where the seeds are. And if you would cut the plant here, you would see it's a hollow tunnel all the way to the bottom. And it's it's so amazing to me, because I can't, it's hard for me to understand how on that small stem, the head of a sunflower that could weigh 10 or 15 pounds can stay and reach looking at the sky until it's completed its seed season. And then after it has its seeds, it drops them into the field, and it just lays over the top of them and kind of guards them. And then the head becomes too heavy for the plant, and it'll actually fall at the final stage and land right on the ground with the seeds below the surface all season until the springtime comes, and then the seeds will push their way up and become flowers again. And that's what I wanted to demonstrate here, because the more I did research on the benefits of sunflowers and all of their exquisite details, it made me want to share it with the public, so that everyone could get some kind of a connection with this flower and all of the benefits it gives to our land. So these seeds are actually from the subjects that I painted. And the heads of them, I had my daughter hold it while I cut it. And I said, "Are you holding it tight?" And she goes, "Yes." And I cut it, and she nearly fell over, because it was about 25 pounds, the head. So we took the seeds, and we've been letting people just take them for their garden. So hopefully this summer a lot of people will have a new flower, and quite a large one.
Looking at Elle's work, I noticed that there's a lot of texture, and I really got drawn in. And actually, while filming this is where it was happening, where I was like, hey, there's a lot more in here. What is this? And you can just get, as you get closer, you see patterns in the texture and the colors, and it really became quite fascinating.
Well, the way I work is I like to work on panel, supported by 1x2s in the back so it doesn't warp. And then I like to get the flow that I feel around the plant, the air, the movement of the air. And I do that with application of texture with molding paste first. And then on top of it, I'll put the color. And then I like to make it a little more dramatic. So what I'll do is use charcoal to outline the plant at first, and then build it up with, this is texture where I had molding paste and I actually put sand and dirt on top of it. So it gave that texture, the pebble texture that the seeds give the plant when you look at it.
Elle also had a lot of other pieces featuring sunflowers with more realistic elements in them, but always bold, always striking. I love this guy. Looking around her studio, you can see there's a mix of things, and she has just in every little corner something, like this encaustic piece, again on the sunflower theme. However, like their subjects, the sunflower pieces were soon to come down as Elle was getting ready for a new show. Elle's new show, American Dream, We Had It All and We Broke It, Now What Do We Do With It, is social commentary on society and consumerism, all motivated by a vintage doll.
This doll has had enough with consumerism, with capitalism. He just wants to change the mold and come up with new ideas and creative ideas to solve the problems that we have now and address them, not just put them under the carpet and expect someone else to change them. He wants everyone to make that wave begin and make the change.
So this is abstract realism. What is abstract realism?
Abstract realism is a combination of two forms of art that are traditionally separated, abstract and the realism. And what I did here is I combined both of them so that the realism pulls you in and you know what the subject is. But then the lines that come off of the realistic image kind of become abstract and hopefully bring you to a different connectedness with the subject in general.
The combination of realistic and abstract elements is very striking, and we just get so many different things. And there's a mournfulness to some aspects of it that I'm not putting it to music because you've got to have that in your head as we just see these different angles. And she has seen a lot in this little guy and added a lot, like the number 5, which comes from her family. She also has great perspectives in here. The posing is awesome. And then this little detail, this old-fashioned light switch, like we both had in our houses in New Jersey. And then, of course, the texture. There's always texture in here. In addition to the texture, you may have noticed in the background a lot of print. And I asked her what these were. They turned out to be old encyclopedias, and she explains what they mean.
I had a whole bunch, and we were going to recycle them. And I thought, don't recycle them. Don't let the words be lost. What we're going to do, what I did was hand-picked out several words that I thought meant something for this generation and to me personally, and I would put them on the backgrounds.
Then there's this piece, and I just had to ask what she was going for here.
Well, what I was going for here was that he's had enough. He doesn't even want to look at us anymore. But there's always love. That's between all the chaos that is in the world at the moment. If we just treat each other with kindness, we can get through this.
At the other end of the gallery, there was this piece that featured a different doll.
This guy was a little statue that I found in my mom's jewelry box, and I would always open it as a kid and look at it, and I never got the history behind it. I was always afraid I'd break it. So I imagined him to be a minister sending his word out into the world of love. The broken glass is actually to symbolize that we're breaking through the mold, breaking through the norm, and looking for different ideas, creative ways of solving problems. The title of it is With Love the Righteous Do Walk, and it's the idea that, there's so many preachers and good people going out in the world and sending love, and eventually this will change the way we treat each other, hopefully.
Well, that was our episode. We are now on the other side of the lake, and that's Quill Hill, where we were earlier, way off behind us on the horizon. And we've been getting some good stuff for the future, but we hope you like what we showed you today. We love Elle.
We do.
And we look forward to showing you some of Paloma's work in the next episode.
The next episode, we're going to meet Big Sister Paloma Costell. And still waters run deep. And Paloma was a bit camera shy, but has some great art. And just look behind her on that easel. Spoiler alert, that's just a scrap of paper that she has started doing work on, and it's awesome when we take a close look at it. She's embarrassed that I'm saying this, but it's great. Of course, we're going to look at a lot of finished work that touches on themes from Wounded to just iconic to unamused. So I hope you'll join us for some really great art. Speaking of running water, it was something about curve in the rocks here at Cascade Stream Gorge that just kind of made me think of Elle. And so let's have this under the credits.